Yo, what's shaking, everybody? Welcome to the Orangebloods Postgame Show, brought to you by the Lowy Law Firm. I'm Jeff Ketchum, joined by Travis Gailey, as the Texas Longhorns are 1-0. That 5-7 stink is in the rearview mirror after a 52-10 win tonight over Monroe. Again, thanks to the Lowy Law Firm for being the sponsor of the postgame show. Thanks for joining us on what will almost certainly be a late night of analysis after a 42-point win. Leaves the bettors who took the Longhorns covering feeling really good, but not without sweating out those last few seconds. For those who are wondering where Anwar is, he'll join us later. He's got to go cover the post-game press conference with Steve Sarkisian, and who knows when that will begin and when it will end. But for now, Travis and I will be breaking down the game. Travis, I'll let you have the opening shots here, but after my initial reaction of simply stating the offense was pretty good with a little bit of an acknowledgement that there's a growing up process at the quarterback position that's taking place. The defense looked competent, and the special teams created some points. So all in all, it wasn't the kind of thing that I think will have any of us predicting big, bad, bold things next week for Alabama. But at the same time, job well done by the Longhorns.
Yeah, they, like you mentioned, they covered the spread. They, 52-10. That's a good win, even against a very bad team. And, let's just make that clear. ULM is a very bad team. So you got to take all these observations with a grain of salt. But my first observation is actually something my wife said. She was like, this team kind of reminds me of a puppy. You can tell there's a lot of energy there, and you can tell they have some athleticism. They just don't quite have it all put together yet. They don't quite know what they're supposed to be doing. That's kind of what I felt like tonight. I thought Quinn looked good after he got past that first series. Especially good for a freshman, but I thought he looked good overall. I thought the defense was playing fast. I know ULM is god-awful, but I thought the defense was playing fast. Barron Sorrell looked like a man-child out there. He looked great. I think there's a lot of good things to take away from. And, the coach in Sark was probably thinking he's got a lot of good coaching points he can make to make this team better. So, and they're going to need to be coached up a little bit quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the old cliche is that the team makes its biggest leap between games 1 and 2. You can see where this team will be growing throughout the season. I thought Quinn Ewers got better as the game went along. He wasn't a guy that got better between games 1 and 2. He was a guy that got better between series 1 and 2, and then 2 and 3. And I think, Quinn Ewers goes 16 of 24, 225, 2 touchdowns, the 1 interception, but he completed 67% of his classes, a 164.6 rating, which I've said all offseason that it's funny he's so close to the number that I constantly stress. But I've said if he can go 165 for the season, I think this team is playing for the Big 12 championship at the end of the year. It's so weird to talk about this team right now because the Alabama game is next. So if we're just having a conversation 30,000 feet up about this team over 12 games, there's really a lot of positive things to talk about, starting with Quinn Ewers. Jatavian Sanders had a breakout game. There's explosive weapons all over the field. The offensive line played really well tonight. You mentioned it. Monroe's an abysmal team to try to gauge what success means. For instance, I thought Barron Sorrell was excellent, but it was clear. It was clear that the right tackle for Louisiana Monroe might be the worst player that Texas sees all season long. There were times that guy just couldn't get a hand on Sorrell.
Right.
There were times that I thought Bijan Robinson looked so good
They might have been.
They might after the game. It's like the exchange of jerseys. I don't know if any. I don't know that he would have looked at anybody from that team and would have thought, "Oh yeah, give me your jersey." But he might have signed some mustard bottles along.
I was about to say, would it shock you if one of them had a mustard bottle ready to get signed?
Not even a little bit. So there's Alabama next week, and this team's not ready to play Alabama, a team that the last time I looked, they were up like 55-0 against an actually pretty good Utah State team that is going to be way more competitive over the course of the rest of the season. Just like Oregon, like Georgia and Alabama and Georgia just are freak teams. And so I pity the teams.
What Georgia did today, I mean, I don't want to diverge too much off UT, but that was a beatdown in week 1. That's impressive.
So there's so much positive, I think, to focus on tonight. Let's just go position by position. And then when we're done talking about the positives, we can look ahead to Alabama and nitpick a little. We can talk about the punting game in like 40 minutes, right? We can talk, but let's start with Quinn Ewers, because I think a lot of fans were about to freak out after that first series. And then in the end, he was pretty good. I mean, look, he's not a guy that's yet comfortable pushing the ball down the field, but he also didn't force a lot of balls at a time when he's not comfortable really throwing the ball down the field. I thought it was a pretty mature performance for a young redshirt freshman, given what it is that he's trying to work his way through.
Yeah, I agree with you. I will throw out the nitpick of he's got to start hitting on those deep balls. I think they'll come. But apart from that, I really do think he looked good. I thought, by the way, his best pass was actually the one where he was scrambling off to the side and he started to fake pump deep and then just kind of flicked it off to the side to Jatavian Sanders to pick up 21 yards on that play or something like that.
Can I disagree with you real quick?
Yeah.
Because I thought his best play was ironically same player, different side of the field. I thought the touchdown pass, his first career touchdown pass, because that was like a 3rd and 5. Yeah. I think that play was designed to go to Gunnar Helm, and Jatavian Sanders was supposed to be a blocker that would seal. So Helm gets the first down, and then if that play can break further, I think Sanders is supposed to be in a place to make a block there for Helm. Yeah. And I thought Ewers made a really good adjustment in about a nanosecond, because he realized that Sanders was wide open. Sukamel made a comment in our Slack channel that Jatavian Sanders looked almost caught off guard that the ball arrived when it did, because I think that was just supposed to be a quick play to Helm. Yeah. And I think Ewers quickly made the mental adjustment that Sanders was open, and that play ends up being a touchdown to Sanders as opposed to a simple first down to Helm. But interesting that the two plays we both pick are rollouts to the tight end in both directions.
Yeah, he looked good on the move on those off-schedule plays, but I think the common thread there for both of those plays that we picked were his vision is what made both of those plays. His eyes were downfield, or scanning the field, and he was able to find the open guy even when the go-to route wasn't open. And especially for a freshman, especially in his first game, that has to give Longhorn fans a lot of hope that this guy's could very well live up to the hype. Tonight I thought was a really good first game for a guy who, as much ballyhooed, hasn't played since his junior year of high school. I thought the vision was good. I thought the movement was good. He seemed to play within himself. You saw a lot of we've talked before about how the tight end is a new quarterback's best friend. He also had he was hooking up with Jatavian, but he also had some good checkdowns to Bijan. We saw quite a bit of wheel routes coming out to Bijan and Roshan. those underneath plays that keep the chains moving, and they're going to be critical for this offense as the season progresses. Of just take the check down, get some yards, make third and manageable, so that you can hit get the first down when you need to.
It'll be really interesting next week to see how much more look. So tonight was really vanilla, and Sark told us on Monday that it was going to look kind of like this, that they weren't going to show a whole lot, if at all possible. And that, game one, it was game one, right? Without being too wordy about what they did or didn't do. But you can see where next week, if that game's going to be competitive, they've got to be able to expand the spacing of the offense so that they're not – it's funny. People will get mad at me because I feel like every year when I first talk about the Texas offense, I often find myself saying you can't play the offense in a phone booth.
Right.
That good teams will take advantage of you not being able to get the passing game going beyond the second level of the defense. But that's for next week, right? Tonight.
That's where the deep balls come in.
But not even that. Just, there was at one point he hit on one of the better plays he had of the night. He hit Xavier Worthy on a little skinny post.
Yeah.
And it got to about inside the 10-yard line of Louisiana Monroe. And when it happened, I thought that's the throw and the play they've got to make next week to keep Alabama honest. And really every team moving forward, this Louisiana Monroe game, it will be really was kind of a preseason game. I mean,
sure.
You saw a lot of teams today working out the kinks. I watched a lot of that A&M game in the first half, and they end up bludgeoning Sam Houston State kind of like you thought they would. But it took Hayden's King a little bit of time to kind of figure it out. So a lot of teams kind of doing the same thing. It's funny that you and I had the Jatavian Sanders conversation 48 hours ago. We're talking about during the modcast whether or not Sanders would be a guy that we would see unveiled tonight.
Right.
Or do you save him for Alabama and just don't put a lot of him on film? Because, the Sarkisian offense as a whole isn't one that traditionally favors the tight end a ton. Boy, it didn't take long for Sanders to put some stuff on tape. And then by the end of the night, it was like, okay, Jatavian Sanders, no hyperbole, might be one of the best tight ends in America. And it will be fascinating to see where that connection, grows from here. Because Jatavian Sanders is only going to get better. And eventually he's going to help Worthy, and Worthy's going to help him. And they're both going to help a running game. And Bijan made it all look easy tonight. But there was a lot about that offense that in future weeks, I think, gave reason to be really excited about.
Yeah, yes, definitely. I think you can see the components and how they work together and how they can play off each other to really, like you mentioned, Jatavian can help Worthy and Worthy can help Jatavian, and they're both helping Bijan. You can see it's all an interconnected scheme, and you can see how that can only get better going forward. It was good tonight. They put up 52 points. Well, minus the points from the special teams, but they put up a lot of points. It was really good tonight. There is definite room for improvement, though, and I think we're going to see that out of this offense. The one thing I will say is, the one thing I've worried about is a lot of the components of this offense right now, at least, are hitting like you're talking about playing in a phone booth. They're hitting the mid range or the short range passing. But I think they've spread the field out laterally, really well. And I think there's opening up running lanes as a result of that. I think Sanders working the middle deep can keep the safeties occupied more. But I tell you what, I was wondering, what's the over-under on the time that Saban starts scheming for Jatavian Sanders? 10 a.m. tomorrow? I mean, their game just wrapped up. You think he's going to get, 3 hours sleep before he hits the film and starts saying, all right, this is the guy we got to shut down?
I'm really curious to see how Alabama approaches defending Texas. I really think they're going to, the old SEC way is you kind of chop the head off the snake by shutting the running game down. They're going to make Quinn Ewers make throws.
Right.
And this is an Alabama defense that pitched a shutout tonight. And it'll be fun to look, come hell or high water, whatever happens next week, you get a real evaluation of where you are, who you are, what your players are. We won't have to ask next week, is Barron Sorrell the real thing or not? I think he's actually going to give the Alabama offensive line a little bit of trouble next week. I think he's a player that's growing up in front of our very eyes. But every player on this Texas roster that we watched tonight and went, hey, he played pretty good, there's going to be other than the guys that are already firmly established, there's going to be a but Louisiana, Monroe. There won't be that in future weeks, but I don't know. I'm really looking forward to next week's game simply because Alabama, from Saban in terms of what he has to game plan for, won't play many teams this season that bring legitimate scary threats at wide receiver, running back, and tight end.
Right.
Now, Texas has a quarterback that's trying to figure it all out and an offensive line that's trying to figure it out. But in terms of how you defend Texas, I want to see what Nick Saban does because somebody's going to be in a position to make a play one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I get the sense that it might be Sanders next week, that if they're going to pick their poison, I think Alabama's been preparing for this game all season long, or at least all off season long, just like Texas has been preparing for Alabama.
Sure.
And I don't think that you watch a week of this week and you make some adjustments and you go, hey, the tight end's for real. But I don't think they're scrapping what it is that they're going to attempt to do. And it makes me think that next week, Sanders will be in a position to have just as big of a game as he had tonight.
Ketch, if I told you ahead of the game that one player would have 6 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown, and the other player would have 2 catches for 24 yards, you never would have guessed that those players would have been Xavier Worthy and Jatavian Sanders. And that
flip-flop.
Yeah, exactly. But I tell you what, we know Xavier Worthy's NFL talent. Jatavian looked like NFL talent tonight. We know Bijan's NFL talent. So Texas is going to put some points. Bama's not going to shut Texas out. Now, having said that, we're talking about Alabama already. I'm curious what you thought about the offensive line tonight.
Well, real quick, I want to remind everybody, by the way, like 550 strong in the postgame show at 10:43 at night on a Saturday night after
some good late night hooking.
Not terrible numbers. I want to thank everybody as we get started. Anwar Richardson will be showing up a little bit later on. This is the Orangebloods postgame show here on the Orangebloods Texas Football Channel. Do us a solid, like the video right now. We have 86 likes. There's over 500 of you in the room. Like, I'm not asking for manual labor here other than just click that little button, give us a like, subscribe to the channel. If this is your first time and you're like, hey, what's all this about? We do these videos all the time. And oh, by the way, Alabama next week, kind of a big deal. You'll want to be watching the videos. And again, this video is sponsored by the Lowy Law Firm. If somebody messes with you, need a personal injury lawyer or just a lawyer to get you some cash, that's kind of what Adam Lowy does. He takes people to court, or he gets them before it goes to court, and then, he cashes in and you get paid, and that's how he's able to afford the ads because he's really good at what he does. I thought the offensive line was really good tonight. Couple of just stream of conscious thoughts. Very little rotation.
Yep.
I'll get to Kelvin Banks in a second. He's obviously the star of the show, I think. But the offensive line, I wondered how much individual rotation we might see first and second quarters. None, as it turns out. They went with that first team offensive line the entire way through, almost all the way through the third quarter, which meant that Kelvin Banks played all at left tackle. It means that Hayden Connor was your left guard. He rolled out to left tackle for one play when Banks got busted, which was a little bit of a telling thing. Like maybe Hayden Connor is truly your backup left tackle.
Yeah, it wasn't Carrick coming in.
It wasn't for that one play. Yep. It wasn't. Jake Majors played a lot tonight. Cole Hudson, for all of the talk of Kelvin Banks as a true freshman, getting the start at left tackle, and look, he deserves a lot of conversation. Cole Hudson looked really good in his debut performance. And look, again, it's La Monroe, so it's really hard to know what to make of all of this. And Christian Jones played a lot at right tackle. When I say there was very little rotation, all the way until there were less than 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, the right-hand side of that offensive line, Christian Jones and Cole Hudson, were still getting reps. Now, what's interesting about that, Travis, is that we were talking about in the third quarter about shouldn't Quinn Ewers still be getting a few more reps? Couldn't he have done, even if just handing the ball off, couldn't have Quinn Ewers done with a little bit more action considering the opponent next week? Interesting that they pulled him and most of the other guys and that right side of that offensive line, either because they wanted them to continue to get working together, or because they didn't trust the backups. I don't know. Ultimately the coaches would have to answer the reasoning for that. But the reality is that right guard job is Cole Hudson's right now. And DJ Campbell is not really pushing him. Like, we're not going to see DJ Campbell next week against Alabama unless that game turns into a bloodbath. Otherwise, I think we know who's going to be playing on that offensive line. And I thought it was really important for Kyle Flood tonight to get those guys as many quality reps as possible. And they made sure to protect Kelvin Banks, and they treated him like a really important player. But that right side of that offensive line, they said they wanted them to get some work tonight, and they did. And I thought we learned a lot about this offensive line against a bad opponent, but we know who the guys are now.
Oh, yeah. And look, offensive line is a dance. These guys have to know each other left and right. So I think I'm glad Flood kept the offensive line together. There wasn't a lot of rotation. The natural thing to say as well, you would worry if there was an injury, the depth coming in. But you can't coach scared, right? You've got to get these guys as ready as possible to play throughout the season. And he's found his guys and he's going to ride with them. And I think that's the right move. You've got some young guys in there that need reps. Frankly, even some of the older guys in there need some reps. You talk about the right side of the line, though. I will say they just about got Hudson Card killed there for a while. And it was the starters that were giving up the pressure in that moment, not the backups on the left-hand side. So it scares me with Will Anderson coming into town next week, but we'll get to that later. I thought I took some notes about Banks. I was watching him a little bit, and at the start of the second quarter, he kind of got pushed back into Ewers on a bull rush right at like the 11:20 mark in the second quarter. And then the very next play, he turned around and opened up a huge hole for Roschon Johnson's touchdown run. So it's kind of like, okay, there you go. There's a freshman that is, he had some power. He almost got pushed into the quarterback, but he didn't. He dealt with it. And the next play, on pass protection was a little shaky. On run, he just demolished the guy. I was happy with Banks's play. I thought he looked pretty good. In fact, I thought Hayden Connor looked really good next to him. That that side of the line, if they can stay healthy, they've got something cooking there. And I agree with you, by the way. Cole Hudson's got that job on lockdown. I thought he looked really good. I still worry about Christian Jones, and we talked before the season about if someone gets pulled, and replaced by a freshman during the season, he's the most likely candidate. I'm still standing by that, but it's not going to be before next week, and I doubt we see that before Oklahoma even. I think we're talking way down the road.
I think one of the good things about tonight is there was no obvious weak link.
Right.
I mean, really and truly, I didn't think anybody – I'll be interested to see Alex's grades, which is a cheap plug. If you're not on orangebloods.com, starting tomorrow, we will have an Alabama game promo that will run all week long. We want to get you on the website if you're not already on it. It'll be a great week, I think, to check out what we do. And I'm curious to see Alex's offensive line breakdowns because I think all of the guys will have performed pretty well. I think Banks' score will be lower than a lot of people might think. He did give up a sack. And it was interesting, the one sack that he gave up came on an inside move. I think we would think because he's a big young guy that he would be more vulnerable on the outside. He didn't get overpowered. He just got a little off balance. The guy went inside and completely looped around him. And Ewers probably could have got rid of the ball and the sack not have occurred. But give it up to sacks, give it up to sack. It is what it is. I wonder what this conversation, if you and I are doing this again next week, and probably no reason why we wouldn't, because Anwar will probably be in the exact same situation that he's in right now. By the way, if you're wondering, Anwar will join us. It's one of the reasons why you want to stay tuned at some point. Travis and I are going to completely shut up, and we will let everybody's favorite drunk uncle just talk because you and I are already like a half hour in. So,
Sark's still going too, by the way. He's still going strong right now. So Anwar's a little ways away.
And if so you and I still have, ironically, plenty of time. I was a little worried that you and I might not get a chance to talk about the defense as much as we'd like to. We've mainly focused on the offense. Let's shift gears a little bit.
All right.
Defensively, there were two guys that really stood out tonight. Barron Sorrell and DeMarvion Overshone. And
well, you got to throw Deshaun Jameson in there too with his pick.
Well, I give Deshaun, if we were giving away game balls, and let's say you could only give 3 game balls out.
Yeah.
Like, one of them's going to Deshaun Jameson. And one of them's probably going to Jatavian Sanders.
Yeah.
And then we could argue about who that third guy would be. But part of what Jameson did was on special teams. I actually don't want to give him a ton of credit for that interception. That was the most Larry Brown Super Bowl 30 interception that I've ever,
oh, no, totally. It totally was. But
that ball should have been a first down.
I'll say this, though. We've talked all fall camp about how he was getting picks. He seems to be putting himself in the right position to capitalize on mistakes like this.
Well, and look, he took it to the house.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the switch from him being the corner, switching sides, I think is paying off already. Yeah. We'll see. But you're right. The stars of the show were Barron Sorrell. I mean, that kid looked great tonight.
And Keandre Coburn, actually, we could give all of – here's what I'll say. I thought Keandre Coburn had a more impactful game than Murphy did.
Yeah.
And I think it is a really – it's almost a cliche now on Orange Bloods that everybody talks up Byron Murphy and in a way that he's absolutely better than Keandre Coburn. And look, Coburn did not have a season a year ago that I think he'd be playing on Sundays right now if he had the kind of season that he wanted a year ago. he was impactful tonight. He was the best interior defensive lineman on the field. And I thought T'Vondre Sweat flashed a little bit, and Murphy was okay. I think Murphy fished with a couple of tackles. Sorrell, though, could not be blocked. And other than an occasional containment issue with Sorrell, something that they will work with him in practice this week because he loves he cheated a little. He's got to hold that edge.
Yeah.
And Bryce Young had 96 yards rushing in the first. I'm not saying they're going to unleash Bryce Young as a runner next week against Texas. However, the only nitpick you would have about Barron Sorrell on a night when he was a really dominant force. I think he finished with 1.5 sacks. If I go and I look up his final, I think he had like 6 tackles. Let me look up what Sorrell did. 6 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. It's a really good game. So I don't mean to nitpick Sorrell. I'm just stream of conscious thinking out loud. He'll have to do a little bit better job of holding the edge this week. But I thought he was really good. And I thought Overshown, it was good to see him flashing. He saved a touchdown early in the game that will be forgotten. But that quarterback from Monroe was about to pull a naked bootleg and stroll into the end zone. And Overshown was the only guy on the field for Texas that seemed to see that play developing the way that it did. He snuffs it out. He forces them off the field. It saves 4 points. There were a lot of guys that I thought had good moments tonight, but boy, those two guys, Sorrell and Overshown, were by far and away the standouts.
Yeah, they really looked good. And you know what? This defense overall looked fast tonight, I thought, and in large part because of those two guys. And I already think we're seeing some of the payoff of getting Overshown as an edge rusher, apart from his offsides early in the night. You know, he got a little jumpy there. I thought he looked good doing that. I'm a little worried about Ovio Gufu. He disappeared tonight. And in fact, there was one play early in when Overshown got a tackle for a loss in the run game, but Ovi got washed inside and wasn't able to contain the edge. And that was his big problem last year. He wasn't able to contain the edge, and it destroyed the run defense. So I'm still a little worried about our edge rushers as far as being able to stop the run. But that's for another night.
I wish Monroe had been a little bit better, Travis.
Yeah.
Just because these guys are going from Monroe to Alabama next week.
Right.
That is – it's almost unfathomable, like how massive of a leap that is. On some levels, Monroe is a perfect opponent this week. But on some other levels, these guys just didn't get tested enough. Monroe wasn't capable of really stressing Texas. And I think it would have been okay for Texas if Monroe had just been a little bit better so that the guys didn't really – Texas just overwhelmed them defensively against their offense. You know, their quarterback was about the only thing of redeeming value. And that guy ran for his life and basically was his own one-man offense. And he wasn't great, but like that guy can hold his head up high. Everybody else on that Monroe offense, it just, you know.
Yeah, it's a little bit like going from doing 4th grade math to trigonometry in 1 week. You know, we're going to see a big jump in skill next week. And you're right. I thought but you know what? Having said that, I thought Texas did a pretty good job of containing the quarterback tonight, Rogers.
I agree.
He is pretty athletic, and he showed that several times, but they kept him bottled up for the most part. He could have had a much bigger night. Again, and you know what? Frankly, if this was last year's defense, I think he would have had a bigger night. So, Yeah, it's hard to get any real takeaways from this game. But I thought they looked pretty good tonight. I was
They
very
tackled well.
They did tackle well, and
I
that
don't remember many missed tackles.
that's not something that you either tackle well or you don't. That translates across the board. That the skill of Alabama doesn't make it harder to tackle. Once you get your hands on guys, you can either bring them down or you can't. They did well tonight. They really did. They got guys to the ground. They played fast. They got to the ball. Yeah, I think this defense showed a lot of improvement tonight.
I don't remember Jalen Ford much tonight.
No, Overshown was just about the only linebacker I really do remember. Nobody else really stuck out to me.
I gotta look and see.
Except for poor Brockemeyer at the end of the game. He kind of stuck out for the wrong reason.
How many tackles did Ford make? Surely he's on the stat sheet. I don't see him.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know what that means. Maybe I need to go back and look and see what the linebacker rotation looked like. I mean, I remember seeing Tucker Dorsey on the field a lot. And in the end, Tucker Dorsey finishes with 4 tackles, and he was all right. Again, I didn't think anybody on the defense had a bad game. It just occurred to me tonight, and I'm thinking of guys from camp that were talked about a lot. Sorrell was a guy that all offseason has really been talked up, and you can see why tonight. And Ford has been a guy that's been talked up all offseason. Yeah. And I'm serious. I'm looking at the stat sheet right now. There's like 40 guys listed on the Texas defense with some sort of contribution that got them on the stat sheet. Unless I'm just blind.
I don't see it either.
I don't think Jalen Ford made the stat sheet.
Real quick, you mentioned Tucker Dorsey. I will say once we finally saw a depth chart, it was interesting to see Tucker Dorsey as the starter. Just throwing that out there. It would have been fun to see a depth chart earlier in the week, but there he was right at the top.
Well, it'll be interesting. I wonder if Ford went out. I literally, Texas was dominating Monroe to such an extent, and there was a lot of linebacker rotation. It was the one, along with the second. Well, really, they rotated quite a bit defensively all night long.
Devin Richardson is up towards the top of the tackles with 4. So, if he's getting playing time, that
I'll have to go back and watch the game. There's a part of me that's thinking Ford must have gone out early and I just missed it. But, you'd like your starting middle linebacker to be active. And he was a guy that has been talked about all season long. I'll have to go back and really see what happened there, because now that we're talking about it, I didn't, when I wrote my instant thoughts over on Orange Bloods, I didn't make a Jalen Ford note one way or the other. It just kind of occurred to me, like, you know what? He had a quiet night. And then literally looking at the stat sheet, it's like, wait a minute. I see like 9 linebackers listed, and he's not one of them. Let's see. Real quick, Travis, we got some super chat questions. Overweight Lover says, did we already surpass our sack total from last year? No, but 3 sacks, it's okay.
I think they were at 4, weren't they?
No, they finished with 3. Sorrell got 1.5. Moro Ajomo got the other half. And I'm glad they did that, because that was a true – Moro Ajomo deserved his half sack. And then Keandre Coburn got 1. And then, Overshown almost got 1. He tripped the guy up, and then the quarterback ended up running for a few more yards that got him a first down.
Right.
But no, officially 3 sacks on the night. Okay. I thought the pass rush was okay.
Yeah, but the defensive line got pressure. That was the encouraging thing. You weren't seeing a lot of blitzes and stunts to get the pressure. It was
that would have been a problematic.
Well, yeah, I would have, because this offensive line.
Against Monroe. If you're
Exactly.
having to wheel out your safety blitzes and you're bringing them from all angles. I think the thing that you would say about the pass rush, I think you made the right point, which is what was good about the defensive line, or what was good about the pass rush, is that the defensive line is what created it. Sorrell, Coburn, the guys inside did a really nice job. I think the thing that would concern you is the thing that would concern you coming into the season, which is that edge rusher.
Yeah.
Ovio Gofu was not one of the guys getting to the quarterback tonight. Overshown really, he was okay. But this game didn't end with everybody thinking to themselves, holy crap, DeMarvion Overshown is the answer to the pass rush that didn't exist a year ago. Where he was really good was in all of the other linebacker stuff that the team really needed him to like have on lockdown, which he did.
Yeah.
We'll learn a lot more next week. We really will. I mean, I actually think Sorrell is a really important piece of next week's puzzle, because that Alabama offensive line is a question mark. And I didn't watch the Alabama game tonight, but I went to the Alabama message boards very briefly early in the game, and there was some murmurs about the offensive line and what wasn't getting done there. They win 55-0, so who knows where the truth lies with that unit. But the question mark for Alabama and their entire team is that offensive line.
Yeah.
And Sorrell showed enough tonight that would make me think he'll be a handful, whoever they have at right tackle. And then I kind of think the interior players might have some success in disrupting Alabama. The thing that we just couldn't, what we won't know, was that Bryce Young was Heisman level good tonight again for Alabama. And the secondary for Texas was so not tested that I have no idea what to expect next week in the Alabama passing game versus the Texas pass defense. Nothing that we would see tonight. Like you said, it's like going from fourth grade flashcards of multiplication to trig in the blink of an eye, and that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
But you know what? I didn't think a single Texas defensive back put a foot wrong tonight. Safeties tackled well. Corners didn't give up anything. I mean, I really don't have anything to nitpick. Oddly enough, my biggest nitpick was on Baron Sorrell, who was a game ball worthy player tonight. It was like, hey, he's got to set the edge a little better than he did. But the Texas defense played so well tonight against an outmatched opponent. It was really hard, and they tackled well.
Yeah.
So all of the things that we would normally nitpick a defense over, they didn't. Maybe the only other thing would be, other than the pick six. That's a hell of a thing to say. Other than the pick six, they didn't seem like they were in a position to make a lot of game-changing plays. So
they weren't tested.
Yeah, they really weren't. Again, really hard to. I'm trying to nitpick them, and it's really hard to do. Travis.
Yeah.
Let's welcome Anwar Richardson into the show. Anwar, we've been going strong. We've got like almost 600 people watching the show right now on the Lowy Law Firm postgame show. You just had a chance to listen to Steve Sarkisian's postgame remarks, which we haven't. So we literally have no idea what he said. And we've been going for like 45 minutes talking about every observation Travis and I can think of. So we're going to shut up. And by all means, give us your impressions on the game and let us know what stood out to you from the postgame.
Anwar, I think you're muted.
Yeah, Anwar, we cannot hear you. Still can't hear you. Blake, why don't you take Anwar off screen and let him figure out the microphone issue? And as soon as he's ready, bring him back in, and we'll just go right
and
back
let's
to
hope
it.
the press box Wi-Fi is better this season than it was last season.
Well, it looked like the Wi-Fi was good. His picture
It did.
looked good.
Yeah, it did.
Hey,
I'm saying,
real quick, we haven't been negative at all, Travis. So right before Onward comes on, can we just say real quick the punting game next week? Woo!
You know what? The special teams overall looked great. It was just Pearson needs to get on the jugs machine because he clearly needs to learn how to catch. Like he botched the snap on the field goal attempt, then he botches the snap on the punt.
He has some first game nerves.
Okay, maybe. I don't know. I would have him out there on the jugs machine with the
I would have Hudson Card holding PATs and field goals next week.
I would too, because especially if anything goes wrong and you need someone, you got to call the fire drill. Who do you want doing that? Pearson, the Australian, or Hudson Card? I mean, that move has never made sense to me.
Anwar, we got you. Are you back?
He's still muted.
Blake's going to have to get you there, Anwar. I don't have any. He's pointing. That was weird.
I think he was pointing at our private chat, which said I'm still muted.
Well, I know, but hey, Anwar, just so you know, Blake is in complete control tonight from a producing standpoint. There's nothing I can do. If Blake can get you unmuted, we can get you going. But I'm like controlless. I can't control that right now. Real quick, Eric Torres in the super chat. Buying stock in Ethan Burke. I would like to be the president of his fan club. Eric, I think that might have already been taken, but I can't remember who took it. So you can have
Anwar?
Anwar might have, but his mic's not working right now, so he can't claim it if he did. I may be giving away Anwar's property with unfairly doing so.
Well, if Anwar comes with $20.01 in the super chat, maybe he can claim it.
There it is.
Get a little bidding war going.
It's weird. I am now watching the conversation in our private chat on Slack between Blake and Anwar, and I'm just confused. All right, we're gonna try this again.
He had me muted. Muted.
In the house.
No, it was whatever link he sent. I was muted on the admin side, and so when I was trying to hit unmute, it wouldn't do it. So I had to go in through the main corridor to get there because I don't know what the hell was going on.
Live YouTube, isn't it beautiful?
That's how it goes. Okay, I got your question. What I was trying to say and start off by saying was hello, Catch. Hello, Travis. You guys have definitely been going strong for 48 minutes. I'm glad to finally be a part of the show. So hello to both of you guys. Thank you for holding it down until I got here. So I'll start with the news, and then I'll work my way back. Okay. So
I'm on pins and needles.
Well, yeah. So he, there's been something out there, and then Steve Sarkisian kind of confirmed that Jaleel Billingsley is serving a 6-game suspension. That it was something that it's an NCAA thing. He doesn't want to get into the details. He said it's not Alabama related. It's something NCAA. And so he says no legal troubles or anything to that effect. He's went on to praise Jaleel, said he's been, a model guy since he's been there, so on and so forth. So something happened, where he just kind of sprung that on us tonight. So that was kind of like the newsy thing. The other newsy thing is the topic that I don't really want to get into again, but he did confirm about Ajay being back as a part of the team, and all that. And so so that was kind of like the newsy things, and they're healthy. And so he said he was really happy about that, to be able to kind of get out of here, for everyone to be healthy, and so on and so forth. So he felt pretty good, about that. Overall, Ketchy felt pretty good about the entire performance. While he said there was clearly things that they need to work on and things that they need to get better at, he still felt pretty good about what the defense. For the defensive guys that he mentioned DeMarvion Overshown kind of being all around, and I'm sure that's probably somebody that you guys have already talked about. Talked about Baron Sorrell and the presence that he was able to have. Talked a lot about Deshaun Jameson as well. And kind of, some of the things that you and I have been talking about it behind the scenes about maybe Deshaun and wanting to be a little bit more involved in different, in the return game as relates to special teams. And, the conversations that he talked about, the conversations that Jeff Banks had with them, that's saying, hey, you could do other things outside of just being a returner. And one of the things they told him, like, hey, we really feel like you got the capability to block kicks. And so, that's kind of like, if we put you on this, I know you're going to be able to block a kick. Sure enough, that happened. So they felt like they saw more of a complete person, and also the being able to get the tip ball for the interception. So that is something that, has happened. And we have reports throughout training camp about Deshaun Jameson really being an impact guy. So, he talked about all those good things that he was able to see there, being happy to get in a number of people on the defensive side of the ball and the offensive side of the ball as well. But those are the guys that I remember him specifically kind of mentioning. On the offensive side, clearly, Jatavian Sanders was a topic, but he noted that it wasn't just for him as a pass catcher. Very happy with his blocking. It felt like he was able to do that. And I think that was kind of significant, because the one thing that we've always known is that Jatavian had the reputation of being a good pass catcher. It was the blocking that was kind of the issue, the thing that he needed to work on. And clearly he worked on all off season. So extremely, extremely happy, with that, and that the block aspect as relates to Quinn. He said he definitely wishes they could have made some of those deep throws, but he felt like once he kind of settled down, he felt like Quinn did a really good job. After that, still areas of improvement as relates to Quinn, but he still felt pretty good about what Quinn was able to do, and then really overall felt good about the the entire offense unit, the running game, of course, that goes without saying, what those guys were able to do. So I think he kind of, for an attaboy, kind of start off the season and to be able to have a win. I think he felt pretty good about every aspect of their game. I did ask him about keeping his team focused, because you got Alabama next week, and the one thing he did mention, Catch, was that they were able to sit around today and watch a lot of games. And through watching a lot of games, watching a lot of close games, I think he said it was maybe an upset or so. Like he said, he felt like guys got more dialed in, kind of locked in, because they knew, all right, this is not the time to really, slouch out. So he was really happy about that. He said he had mentioned Bama to this team since it was put on the schedule, and he said he has never talked to them about it or anything to that effect. Now, clearly, to talking about Bama and what that entails, and what they need to, the effort that they need to bring. But he did say something, and I got to paraphrase it. Catch, is not going to be exactly but it's going to be close. But I think he said they cannot be enamored with Alabama. They need to be enamored with Texas. And so not to get caught up in, you're playing Bama. He wants them to be focused more so on themselves, but knowing what the task ahead is. So, and listen, one of the things that we know, and one of the things I had in our war room several days ago, was that the goal of this game was to run base offense, base defense, so they didn't have to show anything on film for Alabama, so they could surprise them with a bunch of different things next week. And it looks like they were able to kind of accomplish that goal that was out there as well. So those are some of my intros. Stadium was pretty good, pretty good energy that was out here before and after, words. Bijan Robinson was one of the last guys off the field. He was just taking pictures with people in the stands and signing things and giving away stuff. So it's really kind of cool to see that. And but that's kind of that's me unloading after having to wait for so long to jump in. Now, feel free to ask me what you want.
Anwar, I think one of the interesting points that you brought up, we've talked a little bit about, which was the vanilla nature of the game. I think that, defensively, we talked about not a lot of blitzing tonight, that they were able to get a pass rush with their defensive line, and it's La Monroe, but hey, at least you didn't have to bring exotics, and they have those. They have exotics on defense. Didn't have to use them tonight. They'll be in play next week against Alabama. They'll have to do everything they can think of, I'm sure, to get them off the field. And then offensively, weren't any trick plays. There weren't, this wasn't the week to unveil the flea flickers or the reverses. There weren't even really any jet sweeps or end arounds or a lot of the things that we saw last year that were kind of featured pieces of the offense. So, yeah, I think you make a really good point in the reporting that you had earlier this week and throughout the week that they wanted to keep it close to the vest. I think they were able to do that. Outside of maybe special teams, like part of me watched that Deshaun Jameson block punt very early in the game, obviously, and thought to myself, well, now Alabama knows to make sure that they know that Deshaun Jameson is accounted for in the middle. But overall, I think one of the underrated storylines is what you just said, that Texas was able to be dominant and yet basic, which was probably a dream come true if you were to talk to Sarkisian a month ago and say, hey, season opener, tell me what you want. Let's be dominant without having to do a whole lot, and let's come out without a lot of injuries. Kind of mission accomplished going into week 2.
Yeah, I mean, the only catch to that catch is that Alabama beat the dog shit out of Utah State over today. So if you want to talk about a team that probably didn't have to show much, I don't know if Alabama had to show much on field today, because you thought thinking to yourself, that's a double-digit win team that they're facing, a team that's beat some Power 5 programs. So you're thinking like, okay, they're going to have to show something. And they didn't have to show anything other than they're Bama. They've got Bryce Young, and that's all they need at that point. So that's only the flip side. But if you're Texas and you need every advantage that you possible, yeah, I think for Sark, it probably is a good scenario. It is a dream scenario to be able to come out of this, not having to show stuff, not having to be in life and death, being able to kind of bench your quarterback and let the backup play. Being able to rotate in a lot of guys. I mean, seemed like every series there was a different lineup. Poor Al, his deep dig. I mean, I don't know. He's going to be working overtime to figure out who's in on what particular series. But yeah, I think for them, everyone associated, it ends up being at least something good, something positive when they face the monumental task that awaits next week.
Anwar, we got a super chat question from Moderate This. I think it's like a $50 super chat question. So, let's give Moderate This the special attention that he's paid for. Interesting question. I wasn't prepared. I hadn't given a lot of thought about this would be asked tonight. But, and I want all of us to answer this. I'm curious if any of our answers are different. Do you think Sark will be the coach at the start of the 2024 season? Curious if and how your answer changes depending on the move to the SEC.
So I'll start. Moderate this. That's what a hell of a question after a win. That is the most I don't know if I've ever gotten a hot seat question after a win, and especially after a season opening win, when the team wins 52-10. Okay, I will play because he paid for it, I guess. I think the goal with hiring Sark was to have him lead them into the SEC. I think that's everyone's thought process. It was to just to have a guy that understood, okay, these are the offensive linemen that you're going to need to be competitive in the SEC. These are the defensive linemen that you're going to need to be competitive in SEC. These are the dogs that you need to bring in on both sides of the ball, especially at the skill positions. You got to get faster, at those, or the receiver position, and fast at the DB position. So everything to me is geared towards Sark being there in 2024. If he's not, the decision makers, the powers that be that put him in place would have to admit some sort of massive failure. And Catch has done this long enough to know people like that don't like to have to admit that they did wrong. Like, that is not something that they want to do. And they
wanted to keep Charlie.
Yes, 100%. So no, like, Sark's the coach in 2024. They've got Arch coming in 2023. I mean, like, there's no way this thing is. It would have to be a total shit show of epic proportions for that not to happen. And
this year, I think.
Yes.
I really think that it would take a disaster this year for that kind of discussion to be on the table. I think Sark is in pretty good positioning. He's really popular with the guys that make the calls. And quite frankly, if Tom Herman had been as popular with the same people, he'd still have his job. Yeah. So that Sarkisian is in good standing with the people who make decisions, I think bodes very well for him going into the SEC. Travis, anything you want to add?
It would take Stuart Mandell's prediction of 4-8 and 2-7 in conference this year to really start to do that. But look, this offensive line, those freshmen that we saw playing tonight look good tonight. In 2024, they're going to be in their junior year. They're if they keep up at this rate, their last season before they turn pro and go make some big money. You're going to have either a senior Quinn Ewers or a redshirt freshman Arch Manning. You're going to have Jonte Cook on the outside. There's too much elements that Sark has brought into this program to just kick them to the curb right when we think they should be hitting their stride. I don't see it happening, but thank you for the contribution.
Absolutely, for real. Anwar, we've actually been as positive as, I can be a nitpicking son of a bitch sometimes. And there hasn't been a whole lot of that so far, an hour deep into this. I mean, they did just beat the crap out of a team 52-10. So there's only but there's an interesting context of Alabama's next. So with that being the context, was there anything that worried you tonight for Texas based on tonight going into next week?
Yeah, I think Travis started to touch on it right before I got in, and then I think I just had technical problems and he wasn't able to finish his thought. But whoever's going to hold for the kicker, and if Isaac Person, essentially, I hate to single him out, but Catch, I've been telling you, like, special teams has been my concern. It's been a huge concern of mine. And look, at the end of the day, when we're talking about close games, 50-50 games, not being able to hold on to, a snap, that's unacceptable. And you can't follow that up by dropping a punt that, snap that to you. So you got to get better hands. And if you don't have those hands, they're gonna have to find somebody else. So that to me was definitely a little bit of a concern. Minor concern, nothing that going forward. Just number two, minor concern, nothing that I'm hitting the panic button. But I think Sarkisian was fair when he said, "Look, would have loved to have had some more deep balls completed, and I would have liked to have seen that deep ball completed, just a couple of times, just so you can hit it. We know he can get the short pass. We know he can hit the check downs. but I would have liked to have seen that a little bit more. Again, not the end of the world. It's timing's first game in a while, so I'll give him a little bit of that. A little bit of a concern catch is if Quinn Ewers gets banged up and has to miss a series or two. I didn't see anything from the backup position that inspired any confidence.
Said the thing I was thinking in my head.
Yeah, if and I'm just saying he gets banged up, he has to go to the locker room, get something adjusted, and he's got to miss a few plays or miss a few series. I would have. This is a thing. This is a scenario where you wanted Hudson Card to really just go ahead and assert himself. And even though he, whatever offensive line he was playing with, he's still playing, Louisiana Monroe. Like, that should not have happened. So that's probably like a little bit of concern as well as, you need Quinn to probably stay healthy because he probably gives you your best chance to win going forward. And Malik Murphy is not. Someone asked about that. Malik Murphy's really not in the mix to play at this moment. So these are the two. I would say those things kind of stand out to me as like little concerns at this moment.
Hey, real quick, this is the Lowy Law Firm post-game show here on the Orangebloods Texas Football Channel. I want to remind everybody, if you need a lawyer, Adam Lowy, not a bad way to go. He will make you some money if you need to sue somebody because they've done some disservice to you. We do love Adam Lowy and his continued sponsorship of our show. Real quick, also, since there's almost 800 of you at 11:30 at night on a Saturday night after a 42-point win, do us a solid. Like, I'm not asking for manual labor. Click the like button, though. We're at 245 right now. There's almost 800 of you in the live chat right now. Hit the like button for us, and I won't, beg you for anything else. But, it does help with our YouTube algorithms and everything. Otherwise, we wouldn't even ask. So if you get a chance, definitely hit the like button. Travis, anything you want to pick Anwar's brain about?
I doubt it got asked in the post-game presser because it's probably a little too inside baseball. But what did you think about the offensive line rotation late that he kept? Jeff and I talked about it earlier, but that he kept Christian Jones and Cole Hudson in the game when he had already subbed out the starters at the center and left side of the line.
Yeah, I mean, Cole Hudson obviously just getting some reps. I mean, Cole Hudson's a guy that was injured in training camp. So, making sure that, he's only been back for what has it been like a week and a half, 2 weeks, something at most. So, letting that guy get a few more reps because he missed a lot in training camp makes, all the sense in the world. And, look, Christian Jones needs work. So he's not a guy that we look at and say that guy's a finished product. Like, you could look at him and say, okay, he could use some reps, and and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, Christian for sure. If you a guy like Kelvin Banks, not only is he good, but Kelvin also got that. He had that little scare earlier, so at that point you're like, all right, no need to risk Kelvin anymore. Like, he came back, he was healthy, but let's just get out of here fairly healthy. So that would probably be the thing. And I was trying to think too. I think even when Quinn was in, I thought from an overall protection standpoint, it looked pretty good. I didn't really remember we did the show last year and we kept saying that. I was like, ooh, Louisiana sure found a way to get to the quarterback. That was a little concerning. And I didn't feel that way, against Louisiana Monroe. Not at all, to be honest with you. So I felt like overall, Quinn had a pocket. I felt like he was pretty good. And I think that's one thing I wanted to see from the offensive line is, can you be successful against a unit that you should be really successful on? You shouldn't have these guys coming in and doing anything spectacular. And I thought overall, all of them, did well. And then, the Hudson stuff, I would just have to look at to see, when to watch the film, how much it was holding on to the ball and how much it wasn't. I do feel like from a Quinn standpoint, kind of spawning off just as I thought about that, I think he did hold on to the ball a little bit too long at times. But I still think that's just a rust thing that he'll probably work out. But from an offensive line standpoint, overall, no problems with those decisions. Just because those guys probably need a lot of work. Not a lot of work. They just need work.
Hey, Anwar, before we go back to the super chat question here, I'm going to hit you completely out of left field with a question that you probably haven't thought about at all. I'm just curious. Did Sarkisian mention Jalen Ford with any kind of injury at all?
No. He said they were injury free.
Okay, I only asked because we were talking about players earlier in the postgame show. We were talking about players that during camp had their names mentioned a lot. Jatavian Sanders, Barron Sorrell, right? There were guys, Jalen Gilbo, guys, Deshaun Jameson, guys that constantly were mentioned in camp that played well tonight. Weirdly, as good as a defense played tonight, Jalen Ford's name is not on the stat sheet at all. Not a single piece of statistical contribution that would get his name mentioned in the stat sheet, which was just odd considering he's the starting middle linebacker.
That's a good. You know what? When you preface it by saying I hadn't had a chance to think about it, and I hadn't had a chance to think about it. So, so I don't know what that means. I know the Marvion Overshow was in the stat sheet, and I know
yes, he was.
He was definitely there. But yeah, I hadn't really had a chance to think about. I'm looking at the stats right now.
It's what made me ask the question because I wondered if maybe he got nicked up earlier, and I just didn't notice. But yeah, I mean, Overshown had 8 tackles, Tuck had 4, Richardson had 4, Ovi had 2. I mean, there's a lot of linebackers listed, and weirdly, for whatever reason, and I'm not saying I don't know the answer. If you're listening to the postgame show and you're like, what are you trying to allude to, Catch? I don't know. I'm just saying that I didn't notice him during the game. And then when I looked to the stat sheet to kind of see how he finished, he wasn't on the stat sheet. Anyway, we can move on. I was just curious. I wanted to make sure that there wasn't a Jalen Ford thing that caused him to miss action that we just didn't notice.
Yeah, nothing. No, there was nothing injury related communicated tonight. Obviously, we'll find out if there's something that pops up over the weekend, but so far nothing.
Gotcha. Okay. Speaking of things that you may or may not have noticed in the super chat, only Roadkill wants to know: did you notice that Sark didn't have a call sheet?
Well. No, and mainly because I'm in the press box, so I don't really get a chance to watch, the TV portion of it. So, they have screens around, but I'm using, binoculars trying to see where guys are lining up and things to that effect. So I did not notice that. If Roadkill did, that's pretty interesting. I'll have to we'll go back, we'll watch it. And we'll have to see what happens, and but no, I did not notice that, only because I was looking at different things in the press.
Travis, did you notice that?
I did not. I'll be honest, I wouldn't have even thought to look for that. So that was something that I had my antenna up, but no. I mean, we do know he scripts his first 20 plays. He's talked about that. We've talked about that. So he's got it somewhere, or someone in the press box has it, but yeah, no, I didn't notice that.
Hey, Blake, if you've got any more super chats, hit us with them.
And there you go.
How Jabo 7997, how much did Sark hold back the playbook? A lot.
Yeah.
I thought that was 3% of the offense we saw tonight.
And defense. They held back a lot on defense.
Yeah, man, we just kind of went through that a little bit. So I feel like we answered it right after, and then this thing kind of popped up. But yes,
more super
based
chat
on offense and defense.
This is from earlier. We discussed this a little bit, but we wanted to make sure you were able to defend yourself in the event that you're actually the person who is this person. Eric wants to be the Ethan Burke president fan club, and we thought that might have actually been you.
Yeah, Ethan, look, we have other offices that are available within the fan club. And so, right now I'm looking for a vice president, a treasurer, a secretary. But yeah, I think I've been high on this Ethan Burke situation since he was in high school. So I'm just gonna be honest with you. I've been high on him for a while. I think did I interview him at one point? I feel like I may have. I got to go back and look. But I
You had
definitely
man crushes on him and Klubnik last year, and
yeah.
you were not shy about it. So
No.
I think you put your tent pole up as the fan club president very early.
Yes, yeah, I was definitely hot club and this guy and Ethan, very excited about him, and I've been defending him. There was a reporter, I won't mention this person's name, but a few weeks ago they said to me, "Who the hell is this Ethan Burke guy?" And the first thing I saw in his bio is lacrosse. Like Texas got to do better. Like, oh wait, slow up. Ethan Burke is legit. They're like, well, what's this lacrosse? I'm like, no. You are totally missing the boat on this thing. Like, I'm sorry. I will go into fight mode with you over this. So yeah, I'm definitely repping Ethan.
Which reminds me, I need to look just random. Did Clemson play today?
They play Monday.
Okay.
They're the Monday night game against Georgia Tech. So that'll be our first chance to probably get to see Klubnik because
I think he's like the legit backup, but they've got a 5-star guy that they want to be their starter. But
DJ Uiagalelei, or however you pronounce it.
I can't say his name. That's why I just called him the 5-star.
Can't either, but I can say bench, and that's where he's probably headed at some point this season. He was really bad last year.
He didn't. So. They love Klubnik. I want to bring that up because Anwar and I are from a distance also co-presidents of that fan club as well. Hey man, thanks to C Tristan 7. My eyes are real small. Oh, C Tristan 79. It's weird. I have 2 screens up, and if I turn my head to the right, I can see the letters in bigger fonts. Thank you. No questions. Just wanted to say thanks and keep up the great work. Hey man, I'm pumped that it's 11:40 and we've got almost 800 people in the chat right now, Anwar, given that this was a massive blowout and I was slightly concerned that the numbers would be down. This bodes well for Alabama week. I'm excited that we'll be doing content next week that people are fired up about, and that, there's no maybe next week we're talking about 1,500 in the post-game show following Alabama, which is what we want to see. We want to always see the post-game show posting big numbers, getting people active in participating in what we do. You and I have been doing this for a long time. So, we've sat through some season openers.
Yeah. This is either year 7 or 8. This is year 7 or 8 of the post-game show, I believe.
This just for a brief moment, I remembered the second Maryland loss, and you and I trying to keep people from just legitimately going postal after that second Maryland game.
That was bad. That was a bad one.
Yeah, no, it was.
We've been through a lot.
Hey, well, I look. It's getting to be late. It's almost midnight.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm paying
babysitter right now, so she's on the clock.
I started watching Liverpool play Everton this morning at 6:30 in the morning, which means I don't know how 16 hours of like just sports today. So like we can wrap things up. I want to do this. Let's all give an attaboy and a game ball. To some, like, we'll each get to pick somebody and the other person can't pick them. But let's pick the obvious attaboys that we want to give out. And then also like an underrated, underappreciated game ball performance from somebody that you noticed tonight that might not be DeMarvion Overshown or Baron Sorrell or somebody like that, but that, deserves a little bit of a pat on the back. Anwar, I'll let you go first. You can give a game ball out to anybody that you want to, and then we'll give out an underrated attaboy as well.
Okay, so my first game ball will probably, so we'll go to the land of the obvious, right? So we'll go Baron Sorrell, right? So I'll go to the land of the obvious because of that impact and having him come off the edge. He's fast, Catch. That guy is moving at a high rate of speed. Like when I watched it online, I watched it in person, I was like, man, this guy is freaking getting there. And like I said, I'm usually focusing on there, but every once in a while I would have to try to look up to check the replay because that's like, did someone miss something? It's like, no, he just found a way to get there. So I was really, really impressed that. So there we have that one. And then there is if there's an underrated one, I'll go Gilbo. Just he'll be my underrated guy. I thought he made some good plays. I liked him. I felt his presence out there. Gilbo would be my underrated guy.
That's a good call.
Travis, he took my underrated. I'll have to think of somebody else. Travis, by all means, give out a game ball and then unsung hero award.
I wanted to just say the obvious of Quinn because it's his first win. But you know what? We haven't talked very much about Bijan Robinson tonight. And it's because you expect it, but all that dude did was put up over 100 yards of total offense, 2 touchdowns. He made people look silly like he does every week. He's an obvious choice, but he had a quiet big night. If that's possible, and it could have been so much worse. So I'll give the obvious choice to Bijan as kind of a sneaky underrated one, and then the true underrated guy, I'm going to go with Troy O'Meary just because we finally got to see him on the field. He made a catch late in the game. Love to see that. It was like a ghost coming back to life. So my underrated is Troy O'Meary.
Good.
I like it. I'm going to give out a game ball. Ja'Tavion Sanders was the story of the night along with Quinn Ewers tonight. I mean, he will be the guy that I'm sure I will have a section of my 10 thoughts from the weekend completely dedicated to Ja'Tavion Sanders, in part because after this season opening performance, it might not be crazy that we look up like records by the tight end. And I start thinking about, it's been a long time since David Thomas and Jermichael Finley were catching a lot of passes. And we thought that he might be a guy that in the red zone this year might be good for a half dozen touchdowns, that might be where we see him excel. To see him go for 6 for 85 and a touchdown tonight bodes well for that young man's future. And he's such a gifted athlete. He's a 5-star guy for a reason. It was good to see him break out. My unsung hero, hey, Kelvin Banks is not the guy that I'm picking. I'm just pointing out that Kelvin Banks is the guy that everybody has talked a lot about. Cole Hudson came in tonight as another true freshman starter on the offensive line and damn near played every offensive snap in the entire game until the offense came back out with about 3:39 left to go in the fourth quarter, and then they finally put DJ Campbell and Cam Williams and the rest of, I guess what at this point would be half second team, half scout team, third team, whatever. Hudson I thought was really good. And I don't remember Anwar I mentioned earlier. I'll be looking forward to seeing Alex's review of the offensive line because I think they'll all grade out pretty well. But Banks gave up a sack, and Alex's scores typically punish guys that give up plays. I don't remember Hudson giving up a play in the entire game. I don't remember. Maybe I don't think he had. Majors had a penalty. Banks had a penalty. I don't remember. Hudson seemed to have a really clean game, and certainly bigger tests await him starting next weekend. I mean, let's not get too carried away with our game balls and unsung hero awards, considering Alabama's coming to town next week. So I'll lay off the hyperbole, but I thought as far as debut performances from offensive linemen that haven't received as much notoriety as some of their teammates, I thought Cole Hudson was really good tonight. Nothing happened tonight that will make Kyle Flood want to take him off the field. I think Cole Hudson only entrenched himself as the starter. And now, Anwar, for me on the offensive line, I start trying to figure out, okay, if they're going to, if we're ranking them 1 through 5, I don't think it's a thing we can answer tonight. We'll need to ask, but maybe after next week, we might ask this question of, if the 5 starters are the 5 best offensive linemen, how would we rank them? And who's the guy that, let's say DJ Campbell turns it on? Maybe it's not Cole Hudson that gets replaced, but maybe it's Hayden Connor moving out to right tackle, and maybe DJ Campbell playing left. I don't know. Like, I wonder what the grouping of 5 best offensive linemen looks like in 6 weeks. But I have a weird feeling that Cole Hudson stays in there.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Cole Hudson is finding a home. So, I mean, I would definitely, totally agree with you on as far as that is concerned. And, we spent a lot of the offseason talking about DJ Campbell, rightfully so, but Cole Hudson has been a guy that has been, him and Kelvin Banks have been like the 2 guys the young guys that have been like, these are going to be our guys going forward. So it will definitely be interesting to see how it goes and how it progresses, see what happens next week, following weekend against UTSA. I missed that, missed that excitement, but it looked like that was a hell of a game that decided no time. Yeah. Missed a hell of a game, and then the first game in Lubbock. So it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, I totally 100% agree with you, Catch.
Oh, I hate to do it because there's still like 700 people hanging out, but it is late. So time for some parting shots, final thoughts, whatever you want to call them. Anwar, I'll let you go first, simply in the event that after you give yours, you need to get the hell on out of Dodge. You can. It's late. I know the cleaning people there might be like, dude, we want to go home.
It's usually that, but more so than anything else, I think if I could get home by like 12:30, I won't have to pay the babysitter for an extra hour. So, this person.
So get that parting shot in.
Yeah, she's been at the house since like 4:30. So I mean, she's ranking it in tonight, boy. I'm just telling you right now, just a party. No, the party shot is, look, at the end of the day, Texas did what it needed to do, and they made a bad team look bad. You got to give them a check mark for that. There's other games that were a little bit closer, a little bit crazier. This one is Texas that what needed to happen. So, I'm looking forward to the Bama week and the excitement of that. One of the things I'm going to mention in my column that I started writing today was like, next week, this upcoming week is kind of the almost a preview of what its life is going to be like in the SEC, where you actually are looking forward to regular season games that are meaningful as that for a fan base, as opposed to the slate of games that you have now, which you just kind of shoulder shrug. But the thing, like week after week, you're getting excited about the LSUs of the world, or Mississippi States, or Arkansas, and there's just going to be more level of excitement. So I'm kind of, looking forward to the hoopla, the excitement, game day, all that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, I'm excited, looking forward to it, and that will take care of itself. What the results will be the results, but at least the build up will be kind of the exciting and cool part, and knowing this is going to be a part of Texas's future going forward.
Anwar, get the hell on out of here so that you don't have to pay that extra hour. Travis and I will wrap this up.
Good job,
Travis. Any parting shot?
Yeah, this was a fun scrimmage. I'm looking forward to the season starting next week and seeing what the Longhorns have this year. Because this one counted? Oh, well then, congratulations.
1-0, baby.
Congratulations to Quinn Ewers on getting his first win of the year of his career. They didn't look crisp, which is, we talked about in the podcast. I said I just want to see them look crisp. They didn't look crisp. There's some teachable moments, but I thought the Horns looked good, especially on defense. I thought the Horns looked good, and I think I expect this to be, just based off week one against a very bad team, I still expect this to be a lot better season than last year. So it was a nice start to 2022.
Yeah, it's funny, Travis. I made a tweet earlier today during the A&M game, and I said, if it's 10-0 with like 5 minutes to go in the second quarter, Orangebloods will be on fire.
Oh, yeah.
Like proverbial couches will be burning. And then I thought to myself, like, oh shit, man, if at 8 o'clock or 8:30 tonight, people are retweeting that tweet because it's 13-10 or 13, you know what I mean? Like, I thought to myself after I said it, oh God, like Texas
what did I just do?
Texas still has to play the game.
Yeah.
And it's week one. And I just watched North Carolina play its second game of the season and hold on after giving up 40 points in the fourth quarter to Appalachian. Like it's week one. Crazy things can happen.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy happened in this game. Texas played an outmatched opponent. They beat it like they should beat an outmatched opponent. The end of the second quarter felt like the beginning of the fourth quarter, in that it felt like garbage time really early in this game. Probably earlier than any game the rest of the season by a mile. It felt like, why are they even doing this? Because the game was over and the two teams had decided which one was better, and it kind of played itself out on the field. And it's my way of saying, job well done, Texas. You could have messed around, could have peed your pants a little bit, could have done a lot of things, and instead you won the game emphatically. You didn't give a whole lot to nitpick. You accomplished what you wanted to accomplish in dominating the game, but not showing a lot. And there are a lot of teams across the country, some of them ranked, that weren't able to get through this initial week of the season on such good terms. So it's a fantastic way to start the season. Now comes Alabama. And I think two things. One, the number one team in the country doesn't come to DKR very often. It hasn't happened since 2006. And I think before 2006, I can't even remember. There was that Ohio State game in 2006. It doesn't happen very often.
Right.
So appreciate the hell out of the fact that game day's coming to town. The nation's eyes will be on Austin. Enjoy that part of it. But this is me saying this a week in advance. Texas is going to lose that game. Don't freak out. There are – I watched Georgia play Oregon today, and it just felt like a different league, right? It's like watching the NFL during the preseason and then watching the NFL during the regular season.
Right.
And Georgia felt like an NFL regular season team, and Oregon, who probably going to turn out to be pretty good when it's all said and done, they felt like fourth quarter of an NFL preseason game. Alabama and Georgia just on different levels. And Overweight Lover asked, will Texas be ranked for the Bama game? I don't know. Probably not.
I'm going to say yes.
I mean, what upsets occurred that would have knocked teams out of the top 25?
You know what? That is a good question. And as I'm pulling up the top 25 list right now,
I don't really remember anybody.
Yeah.
Oregon's still going to be ranked, I think.
Yeah, they are.
I think. I don't know. It'll be close. Like overweight level, they might sneak in at like 25 somewhere.
You know what? UNC was ranked, weren't they? Were they ranked?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, they're not sneaking in at 25 because BYU kicked butt today. Houston.
No, but like just don't freak out next week when the number one team in America comes to town with the reigning Heisman Trophy winner and spoiler alert, potentially looks like they're further ahead as a program and as a team than Texas. And it's like, no shit, Sherlock. Like there's levels to this, but I'm really looking forward to learning something about this team next week that we just really couldn't learn this week. And I think that will give us a lot of information going into the UTSA games.
You're reading that too, huh?
Hey, the UT
parking is undefeated.
It is like UTPD and women. They're just undefeated. They've never lost. That is amazing. Quinn Ewers just tweeted that he got his car towed. That's got to be frustrating. And you know what? They did it with a smile on their face.
Of course
They're
they did.
a little bit too much smack talking about that. That may have been their That may have been their retaliation for Ajay Hall suiting up for tonight. They may have said
Ajay Hall's active, huh?
On that note, oh God, that's so funny. Guys, thanks for watching. Travis, thanks for hopping on. We'll do this hopefully maybe again. We'll just do it all season long while Anwar is doing his professional duties as a reporter on the scene. Whoa.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. There we go. I thought for a second we were off the air. But hey, for myself, for Travis, for Anwar, for Blake, for all of you that contributed, not just in the super chat, but just in the chat in general. It's fun to do these shows when the football is good and the team isn't terrible. And tonight, Texas is 1-0. It's your undefeated Texas Longhorns get ready to take on Alabama. Thank God the offseason is over. Thank God a potentially fun season has begun. We will see you next week on the Lowy Law Firm postgame show here on the Orangebloods Texas football channel. Like that, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, get notifications. I'm going to bed. We'll see you next week.